Welcome to the Cryptonaut podcast. My name is Mark Storrs, and hanging out with me as always is
Rob Morphy.
Robert, thank you so much. And
Chris.
thank you all so very much for joining us. Top of the show, all kinds of fun announcements tomorrow, August 20th. Tuesday, August 20th, premiering on our YouTube channel, Christopher's movie.
That's right.
Squirrels.
You're going to see it.
Squirrels is premiering tomorrow on YouTube, so check that out. Obviously, you've all got, let's go to YouTube, type in Cryptonaut Podcast. The link's going to be all over the place. You can check it out there. Super fun time, super awesome. And with the launch of Christopher's film, we have some merch. Now, this is coming on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
The movie doesn't come out till tomorrow. So we can't really say what this shirt is about. But
spoiler alert.
I laughed my ass off when I walked in and saw it.
Rob didn't know the whole
I didn't
thing.
know you were wearing it for a while when you got here.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Wow, there's a...
Look at those hauntingly beautiful eyes.
Yeah. Well, the Patreon people can see it, but here it is right here, this T-shirt. We're just going to leave it a mystery for the people that aren't on Patreon because you all will eventually see it for sale. So there's this shirt, and there's another shirt that's going to be for sale as well. So all this merch is coinciding with Chris's movie for two characters, two very familiar characters in the movie.
You might recognize
Mayhap.
them from places
and things.
Yes. I was gonna say parts unknown, but that doesn't work because they are clearly known.
Everybody knows.
Not we
knows what parts they're from.
Exactly. So there's that. It's awesome. Also too, we're gonna start putting this information out there. This only is going to affect a select group of people. This is going to be a Patreon / Apple issue. So this is what's gonna happen. New people, not current people, new people after November 2024 signing up for our Patreon in the iOS app only. There will be an extra charge because Apple is pulling some shenanigans
Fucking Apple
with Patreon. Yeah, it's super stupid. But here's the thing. Go to patreon.com/Cryptonaut Podcast. Sign up there. This does not affect any current member. This only affects a very specific group of people in the future that are new signups on the iOS app.
You could say that about anything, really.
I know, but because of the way that we do our pod, it doesn't really, it affects just that group of people that are going to be signing up.
So it's motivation to sign on before November.
Yes,
2024.
exactly. Or you know what?
Don't use the fucking app.
Don't use the app to sign up. You know what, Christopher? Thank you. Plain and simple. Don't use the app to sign up.
Use the app.
Just go to Cryptonaut, or go to patreon.com/Cryptonaut Podcast, sign up there, then log into the app, and you're okay.
Yep.
Any transactional shit through the Patreon app via Apple after November 2024 is going to be an issue. I hate this so much because I can't explain it because it's so stupid.
You did good, though.
I'm trying.
It's a 30% charge is what they're doing.
That's absurd.
Which is still, I mean, it's not like it's insane, but still, if you're paying $10, then you got to pay $13. And why pay $13?
When you can just pay
fucking 10.
And this is not anything to do with Patreon. This is not Patreon's decision.
Yeah.
This is Apple's bullshit policy in the App Store.
Yep.
And I was talking to Christopher about this. I thought there was some kind of like legal thing that happened recently. I might be wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up getting overturned somehow because it's absolutely ridiculous that they would do this. So again, we're going to put it out there for folks. Obviously, that way down the road, if you want to sign up, but just keep mentioning, don't use the app. Just go to the website. Don't hit with the extra fee from Apple. There it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Are we good now?
The business is done.
The business portion of this podcast is coming to a close, good sir, until the end of the podcast, wherein I will repeat business, including Chris's movie, Patreon, our social medias. We're on the TikToks. We're making things happen there. We're back. We're doing it. Part 2, buddy.
Yeah.
We're doing it, man. I'm
stoked.
so stoked about this, man. Episode 351, Mikey Story Part 2, The New Kid.
Oh, boy. You know what that means.
Yes.
What's that?
Donnie's back. The Wahlberg, the one that mattered.
Oh, The New Kids. Do you have the right stuff?
I always had the right stuff. Yeah.
I like how confident you are because I was like, I don't know if I got the right stuff.
Oh, I got swagger.
Maybe Rob will tell me I got the right stuff.
You do. Your stuff is good, man.
Do I?
Your stuff is it's beyond solid.
Your stuff's good, dude.
Your stuff's good.
You got nothing to worry about.
Am I decent?
You're beyond decent.
Excellent.
You're
All right.
You're mega decent.
You're decent.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, let's get started with, in the dog days of the summer of 1977, a bunch of boyhood buddies stumbled into the adventure of a lifetime when they befriended the new kid in the neighborhood. But what at first sounds like the synopsis for a classic ABC after-school special is skewed by the fact that the new kid was a young Bigfoot, and the odyssey that ensued is one of the strangest and darkest chapters in the history of cryptozoology.
Mm-hmm. And how?
The darkest part got me because I'm like, why is it dark?
I know, that's the thing.
This is not happy. We have new friends. They're Bigfoot. It doesn't end happily. I know.
Let it play.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Just let it play.
Clearly it doesn't, because
I mean, I wouldn't have written it unless I wanted to give folks like you, Mark, a chance to understand that maybe things are going to take a little bit of a turn. Maybe it's going to get a smidge disturbing at some point.
Okay, well, you know what, man? I'm just going to hope for positivity.
And that is a well-founded hope that you will eventually find disappointing. But that's not the point. The point is hope springs fucking eternal.
Awesome, man. Let's do it.
Okay.
On October 16th, 1976, a 9-year-old Randy Kutara and his family.
Oh, no.
Oh, I said it fucking wrong.
That is not even close.
Oh, see, that's the thing, because we discussed that at fucking length in the beginning. Kutara, Jesus Christ. See, that's the thing. I knew I was going to centaur it. I knew I was going to overthink this motherfucker.
Randy Carcinogen.
Mark spent 7 hours watching 1,100 videos, all of which had terrible music.
He was doing homework in the corner, looking for somebody to say his name.
And I kept saying, no problem, I got this. No problem, I got this. And then I fucking say it, and I might as well have called him Smith Baggins.
I kept finding the same dude that I couldn't understand or hear. He's like Randy Cutrera.
Randy Cutrera?
Cutrera.
Oh,
Cutrera.
Documentary on Randy Cutrera.
Cosmology.
All right. You know what? Maybe that'll make it. Maybe it won't. I don't know.
Yeah. So we obviously can't quite figure out how to say his name. I think Christopher nailed it with.
Oh my God.
Cutrera. Yeah.
Cutrera.
See?
Cutrera.
Cutrera.
Yeah.
Chris says his name from now on.
Randy's going to hear this, and maybe he'll send us a message like, you guys are assholes.
So
oh, duh.
No, but this is par for course, though. This isn't this isn't abnormal for us.
No one's going to be shocked like they couldn't say the name right.
No, not at all. Yeah, so
that one go.
So save your comments, folks. Save your comments. Save your DMs. We can't say his name right. Rob's gonna goddamn try. We're gonna screw it up. You finally all browbeat me into documentary. Okay, I'm a broken man.
No, you still said it wrong.
Yeah, you struggled with it for months and weeks.
Yeah, that's how you say it, right?
Yeah, I say documentary.
I thought you started saying documentary.
No, documentary.
Yeah, to me that one's not acceptable at all.
No, that's unacceptable.
It's just not documentary. It's documentary.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know, fuck it. I don't even care anymore.
Let's do it, man. We're moving on.
All right. No, you know what? Let's start again. Let's woo.
Okay, right, hold on.
The rewind machine.
Okay, here we go.
Do you need a Cutrera chant just to nail it?
Is it Cutrera or is it Cutrera?
Cutrera. That's what the voices said on the tubes.
Cutrera.
Everyone said Cutrera.
Okay.
Cutrera.
We're going to start from the beginning. We're going to set the tone. We're going to feel it.
Cutrera.
On October 16th, 1976, 9-year-old Randy Cutrera and his family moved from Burke Ave in Grand Rapids, Michigan to a rustic farmhouse in rural Alto, about 20 miles to the southeast, not far from Morris Lake. Though he was a self-professed city kid, Randy had spent plenty of time camping in the country and learning to hunt and track with his dad and uncles, and he took to his newfound environment like a proverbial fish to water. Living nearly a mile away from the nearest neighbors, it took a few months for Randy to meet any of the kids in the area, so he spent most of his first few months by himself, building forts and playing in one of the 4 barns dotting his parents' property.
Dang,
that's an ample amount of barns.
Most people don't have one barn.
Fair. I only know a few people that have a single barn.
I have a tiny shed.
You do have a
That's
shed.
why most people have tiny sheds.
Very small.
Baby barn, we call them.
Hold me closer, tiny shed.
This is my goddamn baby barn.
It's my baby barn.
Keep your eyes off my baby barn.
When Randy was in the mudroom in the back of his house getting ready to go outside, he would occasionally catch glimpses of strange animals running on all fours by the creek in the back end of the yard, which, despite their prodigious size, he assumed were wild dogs. Based on that sentence, our savvy listeners will understand that is an incorrect assumption. In the March 19th, 2023 video, Morse Lake Monsters, Chapter 2, Mike's Woods, 1977, Kent/Berry County, Michigan, long title, fascinating documentary. On his Midwest Bigfoot Researchers YouTube channel, Randy explained what was going on behind his house. Quote, I think it was the spring of 77 that we started seeing some odd things. What happened on the field across the creek that was behind the house and behind the barns, there was an area where the local farmer was dropping his cattle and cows or whatever. They had PBB poisoning that year from like 74 to 81, end quote. This is going to take a little explanation. It's worth it in the end, so forgive me this quick digression. To give a brief overview of this environmentally catastrophic situation, according to Circle of Blue, a nonprofit organization reporting on freshwater issues worldwide, the contamination of the food supply chain in Michigan in the 1970s was one of the worst mass poisonings in U.S. history. In 1973, a plant owned by Vesicle Chemical mistakenly shipped I'm just fucking this up left and right, polybrominated biphenyl, or PBB, a toxic flame retardant chemical, to a livestock feed plant in place of the expected nutritional supplement, where it was mixed with animal feed and distributed to farmers across the state.
Oh, yeah. Sake. You somebody, the polybrominated,
biphenyl.
Not good, man.
No.
Oh, you just killed a whole fucking shitload of animals.
And more.
Yeah.
But, all right.
Okay.
So we'll continue.
Okay.
According to MichiganPublic.org, the results were devastating. Tens of thousands of farm animals became deathly ill. Milk production fell. Calves died in their barns. Cows aborted. Lambs were born with gross deformities. Chickens developed strange tremors. And no one could understand why.
Oh, we got Cerberus lambs, shaky chickens,
fetus seals.
Oh, I literally thought this said cows aborted lambs. I'm like, why would they do that?
Just there in their surgical gowns.
To what end?
Like fucking manufactured like vacuum cleaners, just taking care of business.
Jesus Christ.
The Midwest is going to frown on that.
Strange tremors. Oh.
Yeah, there was a period there.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want trembly chickens. But that's the least of your problems at this point. But
you got cows aborting lambs. Yeah, Christ.
The human toll was every bit as dire. It took about a year to discover the accident, but by that point, millions of Michiganders had already consumed contaminated beef, chicken, pork, milk, and eggs, and soon after, PBB was found in the breast milk of Michigan women.
Oh, shit.
All told, an estimated 8.5 million people reported such ill health effects as miscarriages, stillbirths, seizures, hair loss, skin rashes, and severe memory problems, regardless of exposure level.
God damn it.
Bad scene. Everybody's fault.
Yeah. Well,
that's just a punk rock reference, but it's Vesicle's fault.
Yeah, totally.
At the height of the crisis, the state first quarantined 500 herds, and then, finding no better option, ordered contaminated livestock to be exterminated. Starting in 1974, the carcasses, more than 32,000 cattle, 4,500 pigs, 1,500 sheep, and 1.5 million chickens were eradicated and buried in massive trench-like tombs in Kalkaska County, Michigan. The site had been chosen because it was 3 miles from the nearest river, and a natural underground clay layer above the water table would impede any contamination that escaped the lined pit. But it turns out not all of the casualties made their way to this designated safe site. According to Randy, quote, for a while they couldn't figure out why all these cows were dying. The state would come in these state trucks and pick up these dead cows and bury them in the mass grave up in Kalkaska, but they would do this bi-weekly, end quote. It seemed, however, that at least one local rancher wasn't content with the twice-weekly pickup schedule and, clearly giving zero fucks about contaminating the local water supply, took to stacking the bloated cow carcasses in the swampy area just beyond the creek, the one at Randy's house. Randy continued. I don't know why. I guess they figured they'd just get cleaned out when it went through all that water. Because we all know how well that works. Yeah. Running water through contaminated, bloated corpses always cleans the land.
Yep.
Yeah,
no problem.
Solves all the problems.
Does not contaminate the entire water table any further as a man that works in water.
No, you wouldn't. Yeah, you're not experienced with that at all.
No, Jesus, this is fucking awful.
Yeah, so they just assumed that the creek would clean it all out. Or something like that is what he said. But when I moved there was a pile of cows not far behind the huge hay barn. And there's the creek back up there, and that's where they put the cows. There's a house there now, but that house wasn't back there then. It was a cornfield, end quote. But as biologically awful as the decision to discard disease-ridden carcasses in an open field next to running water may have been, at least one group of local fauna found the prospect of an easy meal irresistible. Randy claimed, shortly before my dad died in 2015, he told me about a lot of the things that had happened. One of the things he told me about was when he was walking the dogs that night before he went to bed, and he came across something with red, glowing eyes feeding on those cows down at the creek. At first, he saw the red eye shine, and then he saw, with his little 70s flashlight, he saw what was eating the cows. And he actually kept that to himself, and he didn't tell me about it until 2014 or 2015, just before he passed away. When he finally told me about all of the things that happened, this is one of the incidents that he saw. He just thought they would go away, and he didn't foresee all of the things that were going to happen down at the barn and everything else. Another little touch of foreshadowing.
Oh, yeah.
This time courtesy of Randy. So that was a bit of a digression, but it plays.
There's going to be a thing. Yeah.
Without elaboration, it's impossible to know if Randy's dad, like his son, initially assumed that these quadrupedal creatures were wild dogs. But from his much closer vantage point, that seems unlikely, especially considering no canines, or any animal for that matter, has preternaturally glowing red eyes. That just doesn't fucking happen. The other indication that his father saw more than he'd ever wished to comes to us in the form of a series of elaborate illustrations that Randy created later in life to depict in startling detail all of the events described herein. What's striking about this is that the artist himself claims that he had never shown even the slightest interest or aptitude for drawing until he randomly picked up a pencil and began illustrating this series of life-changing events that he and his family and friends endured decades earlier. So later in life, he just picked up a pencil, starts rolling with it.
That's crazy because I've seen his artwork and he's a really good artist.
Yeah. Like strangely two-dimensional, but super vivid, very evocative. I'm going to talk about it here.
Yeah.
He seems to believe that his previously unheralded abilities have a paranatural origin. But whether or not that is the case, the incredibly lifelike yet clearly stylized renderings betray a raw but genuine artistic talent, as visceral as it is refined, one which is every bit as essential to telling this story as are Randy's memories and verbal accounts. So at this point, I think, is where, Mark, you fill in people on where they can see these. This is basically a storyboard for an unmade movie.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is in the description of this podcast, we're actually going to link to Randy's personal Facebook account. You can go into his photo section and you can see all his art that he has there. And he, like I said, you'll see he's a really great artist.
He really is.
Especially considering this case, the stuff that he has illustrated there is pretty fucking bonkers.
It sends it home.
It really does.
Dude, the illustration that really struck me, I think one of the first I saw was these creatures feeding on the dead cows
in the river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With dad with a flashlight and a pup.
Yeah, that he
and
has
you're like, the fuck.
Yeah, no, he has a crazy, like, his style is really cool because it's like super pencil line art detail, but it has almost like a punk, I don't know.
Because it is brilliantly untrained.
Yeah, but
he clearly came to this and he's drawing what he sees in his mind, and it is incredibly detailed and anatomically fascinating and correct for the most part.
It reminds me of like the cover of Earth AD, like Mad Mark Root.
That's fair.
The guy that did it. Yeah, it has that. It has that style. It's really awesome. So again, in the description of this podcast, we're gonna have a link to Randy's Facebook page. You can go there. You can look at his artwork there, and of course, we'll have something up on the Instagram. But for the majority of any pictures involving Randy's work, we will be directing everyone to his Facebook page.
Yes, but just for a moment, let's table these discussions regarding the massive loss of life due to PBB and Randy's seemingly supernatural drawing abilities and go back to the story. At this point in the summer of 77, Randy and his buddies apparently had no idea what it was that they were dealing with. And even after an alarming late-night camping incident wherein he and his friend Mike Kay heard through the flimsy canvas of their tent the harrowing sounds of their new friends Russ and Mike, the other Mike, so many Mikes, being attacked, resulting in the abduction of said second Mike, it was still assumed that the perpetrator was a bearded quote-unquote bum whose shelter Randy had accidentally stumbled upon earlier, and not something more anomalous and much more abominable. All of which you'll remember last episode, obviously, because that was one of the pivotal moments in the first episode of this saga. John Redcorn, a man who may have been a local detective or perhaps a representative of a much more clandestine organization who investigated strange matters, we don't know for sure, had returned Randy's abandoned camping gear and let he and his parents know that Mike, the young boy who'd been kidnapped, had been found unclothed but essentially unharmed, and that the perpetrator was still at large. Though the labels found on the magazines inside the homeless man's encampment were addressed to a local school bus driver who would, temporarily, fall under the state trooper's investigative radar. So that guy isn't going to play into it again. But they found some magazines that had been probably taken from his garbage.
Yeah, I remember talking about that.
You know, it was either collected by a homeless guy in this weird reed hut or whatever the fuck it was. Or
Gilligan's Island hut.
Or a Bigfoot. Yeah.
Just taking all this guy's
Bigfoot who had like
junk mail.
Like stock photos, like impaled on the reeds in his wall,
hilarious.
And Christmas decorations and baubles and broken shit and
like,
glass.
Especially if it's
and was-its.
It's like, yeah, but it's like,
booze.
Like, why would a Bigfoot care about like a picture of human families unless
it's craving human interaction?
The human flesh.
Well, no. I mean, cannibals aren't necessarily fascinated by human culture.
I don't know, man.
But it could be a Bigfoot anthropologist, or it could be just a crazy kid who's fascinated. The way you as a kid were fascinated by Bigfoot, why couldn't a crazy Bigfoot kid be fascinated by you?
If a Sasquatch eats a person, then that's not cannibalism.
All right. You're right. But I was just trying to... Because,
I was asking.
Because we're both...
I'm asking the question.
We're both hominids, but we're definitely different
species. Yeah.
I incorrectly used the term cannibalism. Table that for a sec. What I am saying is that why can't Bigfoots be interested in us?
Yeah.
Or Bigfoot. I know Bigfoots isn't a word. Whatever.
Right.
Big feets want to eat us.
Big feets want to eat us. That's it. That was the moral of that. Yeah. Thank you for bringing me right back down to earth. Yeah. Okay. Heeding John Redcorn's warning not to return to the woods until the whole matter was settled, Randy and his buddies continued to ride their bikes between their houses and play in their respective yards. It was during one such youthful hangout sesh that Randy and his friends, in classic jackass 10-year-old boy fashion, decided that they would use a hose to turn a section of their buddy Tim's parents' lawn into a mud pit for wrestling. An old wrestling mud pit. Because,
kind of cool.
Kind of cool. I mean, I would have done something equally stupid. I definitely used hoses in inappropriate ways. Like I was trying to fill shit up or in my sand pile, which I didn't even have sandbags, I said sand pile. I created whole river systems for my Star Wars figures and shit.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah, I did the same.
Oh yeah.
Because you know why? Because you're a future engineer.
That's right.
You could still do it.
I'm probably a little late. Probably missed that boat.
No.
Uncle Bobby missed the engineering boat. Let's just all be okay with that.
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
Yes.
That's fair.
There you go.
Irrigate.
I do remember one time I left the hose on overnight like a moron, and not only were my parents livid at the expenditure, but my parents every year would get a huge, like a ton of sand dumped at the bottom of the driveway, and that would be the sand pile that we would play in. Me and Goo all the time.
Oh, okay, cool.
And it literally deflated. So it was like maybe 7 feet by 4 or 5 feet. I don't know what it was. And it was 11 feet by like 3 feet by the time I was done.
It just washed away.
Well, but that's okay because they just threw another ton of sand on it later. So it just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh, just washed into the storm system.
Kids and hoses are dumb and they don't respect property. That's the moral of that fucking story. And big
don't
feet
give hoses
people.
to kids.
Yeah, don't give hoses to kids. It's never, someone's going to end up with water in their eye. It's always going to be a problem.
Oh, shit.
Okay. So let's get back. They're at the friend's house. They're making a fucking mud pit.
Mud pit.
In his Morse Lake Monsters full documentary, another fascinating video, Randy continued the tale. It was in August 1977, in the last couple weeks before Labor Day, that things really started to get crazy. About a mile and a half to the south, there were a few neighbors and a bunch of kids my age that I played with that summer. One boy, Tim, kept on telling the rest of us kids and his parents that he was playing with an escaped orangutan in the cornfield. Nobody believed him.
Because why would you?
That's better than you got the Canadian girlfriend. You know,
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, right. But he was like, no, man, I got an orangutan in a cornfield.
Yeah.
You're like, Tim's a fucking, he's a cool dude, man.
Cool dude.
Or Tim's a fucking lying bitch.
Nobody believes Tim.
He's a bitch lying bitch.
He's a bitch lying bitch.
the rare corn orangutan.
Yeah. Which Stephen King missed the boat.
Yeah.
Orangutans
Dude,
in the
I would have
corn.
loved it if you heard all.
Oh my God.
And you hear all the noise
if
and
he
he
walks
comes out
behind
and
the
he's just like,
rose was a big old fucking
orangutan.
Clyde from fucking
Oh, yeah,
Philo
Clint
Beto
Eastwood comes
bullshit.
out.
Yeah.
Oh, man. If you
and,
guys
and they have a semi back there. And it's just
Jeffrey
a prequel
Lewis is
to,
like dubious about who's going to win the
Right.
fight.
If you're not on the $10 tier, you totally do not get to watch all of us do our weird orangutan moves.
Yeah, you missed
And
out.
Chris and Rob just fucking nailed it.
Wow,
I
yeah,
don't know
no,
if I
we're,
did,
we're
but-
no, we're
Oh, you
flawless.
did. It was-
Yeah, no,
it
it's
was
the only reason you should join Patreon
it
for
was,
that.
It was
Yeah.
amazing.
$10 tier.
Oh
Okay,
my God.
so nobody believes Tim.
That's so funny.
Intriguingly, Randy would add that before the end of the school year, so now we're going back a few months, a friend named Darwin, awesome name by the way,
Sweet.
who lived about 3 miles to the east near Thornapple River, told anyone on the school bus who would listen that he was playing near a pond in his backyard when he saw, quote, a little hairy man back there eating a fish, and it came after him, and we all laughed about it, end quote. So again, no one's buying this shit. They're seeing crazy big dogs running everywhere, homeless guys abducting people, quote unquote, again. And now there's fucking the ghost orangutan of the cornfield and fucking hairy little men eating fish just a few miles away. So the evidence is building that people should have been a little more aware.
Yeah.
Not to mention Randy's fucking dad, but all of that we'll
Sure.
get to all
Yeah,
that.
he was there first with the flashlight. Like, dude, you saw it.
You saw it.
Tis no dog, sir.
And you assume, they're just going to wander away. They're going to migrate out. They're just
Nope.
mowing on fucking flesh, the flesh
Yeah,
of the beef.
on tainted beef.
Which again,
Yeah.
might play into it.
beef.
Oh,
Okay.
oh no. Okay, all right. Son of a bitch.
So while Tim remained near the cornfield some 50 feet away trying to communicate with his phantom orangutan, his little brother and the rest of the crew set about destroying the lawn. Quote, well, me and a couple other kids decided to make a mud pit out of the lawn over by the cedar bushes, and while we were playing, we saw a face in the bushes. We went to look and see what it was, and it ran away, and what we saw looked like a big dog running away. Well, we followed it because the day before we had chased down the neighbor's dog that had gotten loose. So we thought that this was just another dog, and we chased it. It jumped across the creek. It was always ahead of us. We never got to see the face. We never got to see exactly what it was, but it looked like a massive dog to us. And every time we get a couple of steps closer, while we were running, it would be jumping on the other side of the creek. Then for a moment, he had lost us, and we decided to fan out. And one boy took one side of the creek, and the two of us took the other side of the creek, and we walked towards the pond. And then the youngest boy saw him, that being the dog, quote unquote, run across the door. Why I said door? That's clearly road, right?
It is.
Yeah,
it is
ran across
it
a
is
door.
road. Yeah.
It's okay.
Ran across the road over into a drainage pipe. He'd actually chased him to the drainage pipe on that side of the road. He wasn't sure what it was, and he came right over to get us, end quote. When the boys hunkered down to look into the dark pipe, they could only make out the rear end of a large hairy animal in the relatively small space. Randy continued. We looked in the drain pipe. It looks like he can only go so far in there. We could still see his butt. It's still his butt. I sounded like I just said butt. Like, continue.
Yeah,
We could
yeah.
still see his butt. No, we could still see his butt.
You change. It's just hairy ass in a pipe. and
Hairy
you're
ass in a pipe.
Now where do we go?
Well, it's the 70s. You know where they're going to go. One of the older boys got a stick and started poking it.
Jesus, it's so dangerous, dude.
It's so dangerous.
If that was if you were poking a raccoon in its little raccoon ass, it'd turn around and bite the fuck out of you.
Or a feral dog, or any number of creatures.
Just poking a creature in the ass is not smart.
Not a great protocol. David Attenborough would not approve.
No.
Absolutely not. Jane Goodall would frown.
Oh, she would, yeah.
Mightily.
She'd have some words for you and your parents and your whole family.
There it is.
You'd all get a good stern talking to.
In a gentle British tone.
Oh, yeah.
But you'd feel shame.
You would be.
Yeah.
100%.
So they're poking this thing's ass.
All right.
And it started making dog noises, barking. So we still thought it was a dog. We didn't know what it was exactly because then we could only see its butt. Again, we couldn't see its face. We kept on trying to get it out and poking it with a stick, and then the animal started meowing like a cat.
What the what?
We were really confused. We thought there was a cat and a dog in there somehow. 10-year-old logic.
Cat dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cat dog.
This is years before, but yes.
Oh, bam, damn cat dog.
Thank you. We didn't know what was going on.
Welcome.
We also didn't understand how every time we poked it with a stick, it would grab the stick with its back feet and pull it in and pretend it was like a dog biting it.
With its ass?
No, it would just bring it around the horn, I'm assuming. I don't think it's biting it with its ass. Jesus, do I have to explain this?
Well, yeah, because they're poking it in the butt and it uses its back feet to grab it.
And then draw it towards it,
Forwards.
perhaps beneath under its balls or something to nibble on it.
By way of taint.
Thank you. By the route via taint, as Chris explained so succinctly, it's chewing the wood.
This is like a fucking scuffed version of like 9 Spielberg movies.
Oh my God, we're getting there, Chris. You are absolutely right. That's why my Cronenberg ET analogy from the first episode still stands. But we're getting to that.
Okay,
so
it gets even more Spielberg.
Okay.
As it goes. Okay. So,
this is so weird.
So it's meowing, it's barking, it's fucking via taint, biting the stick.
It's eating a stick.
Randy continues, it was a really weird sound that he made. It was just really strange, and we were really confused about it. End quote. Making no headway in extracting the mysterious animal, which, due to its meowing and the use of its back feet, they all should have clearly understood could not be a dog. The kids decided to abandon their quest and go back to Tim's house to tell his parents what they had seen and heard. We decided after a couple of minutes, this is a quote, that we were just going to leave him alone, and we went back to the house to tell the adults exactly what happened. When the father of the youngest boy and the other boy that was in the cornfield watching for the escaped orangutan got home to a trashed lawn that we had muddied all up into a mud pit, he wasn't too happy about that. He was yelling at us about that, and we were trying to tell him about what had happened with this dog that we thought was a dog and what happened in the drainage pipe and the strange sounds we heard, and he just looked at us kind of strange. He didn't believe us either, so we're at a loss trying to tell adults of what was going on there. Well, we got yelled at for turning that part of the lawn into a wrestling mud pit, and we had to buy grass seed for the repairs, and I wasn't allowed over for a couple of days. End quote. Randy spent those days beating around his property, catching frogs, checking out the pile of dead cows, because of course you're a kid, you're fascinated, and springing the traps that had been set along the creek, releasing, among other creatures, a raccoon. The old Raccoon release.
Nice.
It was between these life-saving operations when Randy was building a rock dam in the creek that he glanced up and was shocked to see a face staring at him from the bush. Before its features could register, the creature spun around and began running away on all fours. Randy abandoned his impromptu engineering project and immediately took pursuit, sprinting up the bank just in time to see it vanish into a nearby cornfield. Randy was about to follow his quarry when, quote, my neighbors from further down the road happened to be going by. They also saw the big dog going into the cornfield, and they decided it would be safer if they gave me a ride down to the neighbors. When I got there, most of the family was gone out shopping, but Tim was there, and there was a babysitter there with a baby, and the babysitter told me that Tim was out in the cornfield talking to his troll friend.
Oh, get the baby out of there.
Well, she doesn't give a fuck, and she clearly doesn't think that it's anything but an imaginary friend.
Sure. Or just a dog, maybe.
Or a dog, or dumb shit.
Something not.
This is dangerous.
I'm highly doubting, though this would be a terrible babysitter to hire, that she believed fully in trolls, thought one of the kids in her charge was out hanging with a troll while she's just fucking around with the baby inside. I could be wrong.
70s.
It was a 70s. Yeah,
it was a different time.
And I do remember my babysitters, and a lot of them were like young teens, and they were about as responsible as you'd assume. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yep.
So, all right, fair enough. All of that is true. So he's out fucking hanging with a fucking troll. The cornfield.
Potential.
This is Randy continuing the quote, was next to the house. I just walked over there and I found Tim there in his underwear, sitting on a ball with a bunch of toys around him. There were some of his sister's toys, Tonka toy cars, baseballs, footballs, you name it. It was sitting there next to him. So were most of his clothes. Tim said, I missed it. I said, missed what? And he said, the escaped orangutan. I said, sure. Because Randy still ain't having that shit.
Nope.
At this point, Tim explained to Randy that he had been reading books on primatology, specifically about, quote, orangutans in the wild, and what researchers do is limit the clothes they wear to get closer to the orangutans. And he said he was trying to get this orangutan to play with all of these different toys and see which one he was interested in just to get him out of the cornfield, end quote. Tim claimed that he'd been trying to coax him out of the field for days with no luck. But just when Randy, despite his own very recent encounters with mysterious quasi-canine-like critters, was about to dismiss the whole enterprise as delusional, he was astonished by the sudden appearance of a little quote-unquote troll-like face that suddenly emerged from the dense stalks, looking uncannily like the face he had just seen in the brush near the Dead Cow Creek moments before.
We got trolls, people.
We got trolls.
We got trolls.
We got something.
It's Chaka.
Yeah, Chaka.
Exactly
No,
what
I mean,
thinking.
yes,
Chaka.
100%.
Exactly
Chaka of the corn.
Yeah. Oh my God, if this was a Patreon, that would be the name.
I know,
Oh,
right?
man.
Bearing in mind, now we're getting to what Chris was saying, that this incident played out about a half a decade prior to Steven Spielberg's record-smashing 1982 hit E.T. the Extraterrestrial, the scene that unfolded between these two boys and this one truly anomalous animal seems startlingly familiar. Randy recalled, Tim then started coaxing the creature, sweet-talking him to come out of the corn. It was working. He was slowly coming out. He came out right next to the cornfield and sat on his butt with his knees to his chest and his arms around his knees. Then Tim rolled him a red kickball. It bounced a couple of times before it got to him, and this thing hit it with his left hand. He hit it so hard it soared off into the trees and popped. Well, Tim thought that was hilarious. I mean, I don't know why I pause here, but it's like
it's just because it's the classic movie moment.
It is. Oh no, it's 100.
Yeah,
this is Elliot walking to the darkly illuminated shed with the light coming out.
E.T. doesn't have super strength where he's smashing balls into the woods.
No, this is a different type of creature.
A different sword into non-existence, into the stratosphere. That's what I thought when this was going. I'm like, all right, stop the pod, stop the fucking pod.
It entered orbit.
Which would be cool.
It's still dangerous, man. That thing can hit a ball that hard, it could fuck you.
I mean, and obviously, you know that.
Don't hug it.
You know, early hominoids, Bigfoot type creatures, allegedly, are all super fucking strong.
100%.
Just look at apes. A chimp might not be like half our height, but it's damn sure a hell of a lot stronger than any of us.
Yeah,
all three of us put together.
Yeah, no, if it gets hold of you, then there's going to be problems.
Yeah. Well, Chris was reading ahead. Not really.
Man.
No, I know.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
Oh shit. Okay.
Okay.
Oh god.
So now we're in
ball turns wrong.
We're still in ET mode.
Not clickbait.
This thing smashes a fucking ball into nothing. Well, into a tree and it explodes.
Okay.
It explodes.
Pops. Doesn't explode. Tim thinks it's hilarious, and then Tim goes, "Look! I taught him how to say his name. I call him Mikey." And the next thing I knew, it was something like a burp, but he said the word Mike. I guess I should have been shocked with a talking orangutan, but I was a kid and, well, Tim really thought he taught him how to say the word Mike. But looking back now, I'm sure he learned how to say that word from the searchers with the bullhorns looking for the boy Mike all day long, screaming out for Mike, Mike, Mike.
Okay.
The kid that was kidnapped a few days before.
Other Mike.
Mike 2, as we've called him. Mikey, non-human Mikey, seemed to be enjoying the laughter he was eliciting from his young playmates. Then, without warning, the ape-like entity lunged forward a few feet and grabbed Tim's arm. Quote, Tim thought it was pretty funny at first. He was laughing until Mike tried to pull him into the cornfield.
Oh, boy, see?
No.
Yeah.
Well, your arm's broke.
Probably. Well, not in this case. Wasting no time, Randy rushed to his buddy's aid and tried to extricate Tim's arm from Mikey's vice-like grip. Quote, I didn't have much luck, but I tried to release his grip. By this time, Tim was really freaking out, and then just as suddenly, Mike looks up at me, releases his grip, and grabs me and gets me in a big hug, and he literally about crushed the wind out of me. Tim thought that was pretty funny. Fucking dick kids.
Jesus.
Well, yeah, I'm sure this is like 15 seconds in real life.
Oh, yeah, boom, boom, boom.
So it's just like, oh, hi, hello.
It's like, oh, you have my arm, and I was scared. But Tim is delusional. Let's just be frank about this.
100%.
And it's going to become even more clear just how delusional he is. But, okay, so he's laughing. And then, just like that, he lets go, and he goes back into the cornfield quickly like something called him. Perhaps a subsonic call, too low to register with human ears? I put in parentheses, I don't know.
Okay.
But he heard something that the kids couldn't hear and then rushed off. As soon as Mikey went back into the cornfield, Tim stopped acting strange, laughing, and he usually doesn't act all goofy and everything. He just all of a sudden picked up his shorts and shirt and he said, let's go into the house. So, and that's odd. It's odd that he's acting out of character, at least in Randy's estimation, which again sort of plays into a lot of extraterrestrial theories, like when people, very recently we were talking about how they're non-fazed by something when they should have been really perturbed. Or in this case, maniacally laughing at something that should have been scary.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah. And maybe it's paranatural, or maybe it's just an individual's reaction to a high-stress situation. We don't know.
I mean, it's probably what I'm thinking. Maybe just whatever's going on. Like, he's just like, okay, like just some weird,
Randy continues.
coping mechanism.
Absolutely. So we went into the house, and he showed me all the books and the encyclopedias that he had been reading on orangutans, and I told Tim, I said, we need to tell an adult. Your parents aren't home. My dad's home. It's Labor Day weekend. We'll tell your babysitter we're going up to my house and talk to my dad, and that's what we did. We took off towards my house. So we're walking alongside the cornfield, and I look up, and you can see something's moving in the corn. And Tim goes, look, it's Mike. And Mike jumps up, and Tim kind of waves, and it really looks like Mike was trying to wave. And the rest of the way, Tim's trying to convince me the whole time that it's just an orangutan and that it's safe to be around, and he's not going to make it to my house because orangutans don't cross creeks. They don't like water. They don't cross that fence and this and that, trying to convince me that it's a big, overgrown orangutan. I wasn't so sure. And again, I don't know what encyclopedias this kid was reading, but they were shit.
Is it like a vampire?
Yeah, I was going to say, that's vampire lore.
Vampire. If you drop seeds, it has to count them.
Everyone knows an orangutan
they don't like salt. They can't cross a river.
Don't get near a crucifix. It gets real pissed.
Hide your garlic.
Yeah,
it is weird.
It's strange.
By the time the pair got to Randy's house, Tim was trying to convince his friend that Mikey was likely someone's lost pet and therefore not dangerous. A fallacy if there ever was one. A delusion only exacerbated the following year with the release of Clint Eastwood's vehicle, Any Which Way But Loose, which we talked about earlier, which made everyone think they wanted a pet orangutan. As if you fucking weren't going to get dismembered 7 minutes in.
Oh, well, because it's a buddy. You watch that movie and you're like, oh,
he's
look.
your friend. He loves you. He hangs out. Right turn collider, left turn collider, whatever it was, and he punches out the bikers, you know. So, yeah, it's a different time, a much more naive time. Once they tracked down Randy's dad, the boys were met with what was quickly becoming the universal reaction shared by every adult they'd talked to. Laughter and derision. Quote, he didn't believe us. He had a good laugh. He thought we were making stuff up and that we had an imaginary friend, something like that. We were not having any luck trying to convince adults. As life-changing as the moment Randy came face-to-face with an unknown primate undoubtedly was, as it is for kids everywhere, normalcy does not take long to reestablish itself, and it was decided that it was time for Tim to leave and Randy and his parents to settle down to dinner. Still, the weirdness was not yet done with the Cryptonaut family. Motherfucker.
That's fine.
Cryptonaut.
I was going to let it slide, but
Cryptonaut.
Quote, it was time for dinner. So Tim left to go eat and I went in for dinner myself. After dinner, I wanted to go outside and play, but my parents were kind of concerned about the big dog thing and now a little bit concerned about the orangutan thing. I told him I would just go down to the milking barn and I'd play in the second floor and I would close up all the doors, all the hay bale doors, all the doors that led up to the upstairs. The only way to get upstairs was through 2 ladders and each had a door. So they decided that sounded safe enough and I went down to the barns to play. So I just got done closing up the whole barn. I'm on the second floor and I start hearing banging on one of the doors over the ladders that lead to the second floor. Thinking it was my dad, I started walking over to the door that leads to this ladder. Suddenly, it breaks open and then out pops Mike. I wasn't too worried about the door. I could fix it, and I wasn't afraid of Mikey. Tim had me convinced that he was somebody's orangutan and that there was nothing to be afraid of, so I didn't have any fear at that moment. Then Mikey goes and walks over and plops down in one of the piles of hay, and I went over by him in another pile of hay about 20 feet away. I decided I was going to make noises like Tim was making noises. I heard him say his name, and I started real simple with a cat, and then he did a cat noise. I did a dog noise, and he did a dog noise. He barked back, but he'd go through a whole barking and growling and make every single dog noise. The same thing with the cat. Everything I did, he would do better. I whistled, and he would do a whole bunch of whistles. I even said Mike, and he said Mike again. It was at this point that something truly bizarre began to occur. As he was emulating Randy, it seemed at first that Mikey's face was beginning to melt. Yeah, this gets into high strangeness.
Huh?
The skin began bubbling and boiling as if the sounds themselves were directly affecting his flesh. This odd interlude only lasted for a few seconds, then just as abruptly as it began, everything returned to normal. Well, relatively speaking, that is. Quote, this odd thing happened for a couple of seconds and then it just stopped. I don't know what it was. The next thing I knew, he came up to me and he was checking out my shirt and he started tugging at it like he was trying to take it off. And then I remembered what Tim said about clothes, that they don't understand, they don't feel comfortable with them. So I took my shirt off. Well, he sat back down. I noticed that his feet were a lot like mine. I literally put my feet on his feet. I put one up at a time. I put both feet on his feet and then he pushed me backwards. I rolled all the way back and he pushed me so hard I hit the next pile that I had behind me. And yeah, I'm still thinking I'm playing with an orangutan. We had ropes hanging. I know, it's crazy. We had ropes hanging on each of these piles of hay that some boys had set up with a loop to put your feet in. So we could run around and jump in the hay and swing around on things. So they stood a little bit off the ground when you put your foot in the loop. Well, I wanted to see what he would do next, so I grabbed that rope and he watched me as I ran around the pile of hay as fast as I could and then let go and spun around and fell into the hay and plopped down on my butt. He watched me the whole time. Well, it was Mikey's turn next, and he just stood there for a second, and all of a sudden he started grabbing the rope and was going upside down, feet toward the rafters. And my exact thoughts, honest to God, back then were, oh my God, this stupid old orangutan's going to kill himself. And then he grabbed those rafters and he pushed off the rafters with a rope to gather speed, and he spun around the pile of hay, nice Rob, like I did, and plopped down in the middle on his butt even better than I did. Randy was delighted, and why shouldn't he be? Though pop culture had yet to catch up, so far the scenario was playing out like a heartwarming 80s flick in the Spielberg mold, but things were about to take a terrifying turn. Quote, now this is where everything went bad. I had a Gilligan's Island moment, a Gilligan moment, and I decided I was going to beat my chest, end quote. Not realizing that this would almost certainly be deemed as an act of aggression by his new primate playmate, Mikey's reaction was anything but subtle. After that, he beat his chest and his eyes turned red and he screamed like nothing I've ever heard before.
Oh, shit.
At that moment, I knew it was not an orangutan and I knew I had to get out of there. I knew I was in danger. Absolutely terrified now, I ran towards the hay bale door, which I had locked earlier, and then I felt something grab my ankle. Mikey got on top of me and pinned me down. End quote. Almost certainly afraid for his life, Randy was initially relieved when he heard a loud banging on the outside door. The door started banging, and for half a second I thought it was my dad, but it wasn't my dad. The door busted open, revealing a face that I thought was a gorilla, and I couldn't move. Mike was making a sound like a humming sound coming out of his mouth. Randy realized to his growing horror that the sound had not only effectively paralyzed him, not that being pinned down by a baby Bigfoot was going to allow you to move that much.
Yeah, really.
But had rendered him literally speechless. He also noticed that when Mikey opened his mouth to scream, a pair of tusk-like fangs that seemed embedded behind his molars in his lower jaw emerged from the gum line. It was unlike anything Randy had ever seen before or would ever hear of after. And these are things that start taking it out of the realm of traditional Sasquatch studies. 100%. The back tusks, the boiling, bubbling flesh. Sometimes they're considered to have subsonic sounds that give you like a mortal terror, which seems to be a defense mechanism that a lot of these cryptids or some of these cryptids have. But the fact that it paralyzed him and rendered him speechless, these things seem to be beyond typical Bigfoot pale.
Yeah.
To me.
Huh.
It's crazy.
Yeah, no, this is fucked.
Excuse me. Without warning, a huge female Bigfoot-like beast, because at this point I can't really in good conscience call them Bigfoot, that Randy took to be Mikey's mom, rushed over to the pair and inexplicably began yanking down Randy's pants with such ferocity that his belt buckle tore a hunk of flesh out of his thigh.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's happening? Where are we?
Right.
Yeah, what is going on?
God,
Like,
okay.
where? Call the police, an adult, Chris Hansen, something.
It's problematic in every conceivable way.
Yes, it's fucked.
It was then that, to his eternal relief, Randy caught sight through the open door of his father rushing toward the barn carrying his Browning 16-gauge shotgun. The commotion and his son's screams must have alerted him, and already being hypervigilant regarding large dogs, imaginary orangutans, and the red-eyed whatever he saw feeding on the dead cattle, he'd wasted no time in arming himself and rushing to his child's defense. Randy watched as Mikey's massive mom also noticed the armed man sprinting toward them. She wasted no time in gripping her son's hand and jumping down from the loft, but at the last second, Mikey grabbed onto Randy, sending him plummeting 7 feet to the ground and knocking the wind out of him. Mikey, having temporarily lost his grip on his human quarry, was being dragged back toward the open door and into the cornfield by his mother. Randy's dad helped him to his feet, whereupon Randy recalled, "When I got up and I could finally breathe, I screamed. When Mike heard me scream, he tried to get loose from his mother, and he did. And he ran back. He charged back on all fours, fast, right at us. And he gets to us and stands straight up and looks at me and looks at my dad." End quote. Suddenly, Mikey's even larger father popped up from inside the cornfield.
Dragon Ball Z now.
Yeah.
Everyone's a Super Saiyan, and just more powerful people keep showing up.
The whole planet fights.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, no, I'm in.
I mean, I'm here. I'm taking the ride,
Okay,
Randy.
okay.
And he and his mate, perhaps better understanding the dangers posed by humans with guns, began frantically waving for their child to return to them near where they were standing, which was next to a fence adjacent to the cornfield, just to keep painting the picture. Randy described what he saw. The father was a blonde Sasquatch, probably about 9 feet tall. The mother, black or dark brown. She was probably only about 7 feet tall. Then Mike beats his chest again, and grabs my arm and starts pulling me away, and I'm screaming for my dad to shoot. My dad shoots into the air. It scares all three of them away. One of the adults, I think the male's foot, got caught in the fence and it dragged it halfway through the cornfield with it. Mike didn't go far. He stopped and then charged right back for us, and we went into the barn. We shut the rickety old door on the outside and tried to get it to lock, and it wouldn't stay shut. So we went into the next room where the most northern room was on the bottom floor, and we got into that room and quickly shut the door. This door locked. I put my back against the door. I don't know if I consider that a brilliant call, but
yeah, it's something heavy against
especially considering two different Bigfoot have burst through fucking doors in this barn.
Knives, things go through doors.
Things go through doors.
You've seen the movies.
We all know.
Fuck away from the door.
Thank you, Chris. There was a hole in the door to the west of us near the right wall. So he's just trying to paint the picture, and that's why it reads a little weird.
Totally.
I'm sorry. There was another small hole to the left of us. Okay, so there's a hole on either
lots
side.
Of holes, lots of directions.
So many holes.
Okay.
To the east,
world full
lots
of
of
holes.
barns.
East and west holes.
All right.
And there was also a window that was broken. So great. For a couple of seconds, it seemed like a lot longer. We tried to figure out exactly what we were going to do next. My dad was facing me, and he could see a hole to my left and an eye peeking through it. Seconds later, a fucking boneless ham.
Dude, a Christmas ham.
Honey glaze.
From the sky.
One of those nice
brown sugar.
One of those nice spiral hams.
Even when I try to create tension, my inability to read is going to thwart it.
Oh, it's hilarious. A hand.
The
door.
A fucking hand came through and grabbed my arm.
Okay, fair.
I couldn't break free. My dad tried to break the grip Mikey had, but he couldn't, so he used the butt of his gun on Mikey's arm. He did that, and Mike screamed in pain and let go. Things went quiet for a little bit. It was quiet for what seemed like a couple of minutes. My dad went over to the hole on the east side of the building and looked out to see if anything was going on outside. He didn't see anything. He unloaded his pockets and put his shells on the ground. He didn't have too many shells. He had a couple of slugs and the rest were birdshot. He'd become a bow hunter and only used the gun for home defense. As he looked back out the hole again, some hands, and one Black Forest ham, came in and grabbed the barrel of his gun.
Oh, no.
He struggled with Mike for quite a while, or it seemed like it anyway, but he ended up firing the gun to get Mike to release it. In the distance, we could hear a siren as a cop car was coming. Apparently, back at the house, my mother called the police and they were on their way. End quote. Though Randy's rescue and his father's seemed imminent, the high strangeness of that fateful August day was far from over. But that, everybody, is a story we're going to get into next week. And believe me when I tell you, it gets crazier.
Dude, yeah. Mikey story part 2, the new kid. Yeah, so
what the fuck?
It's weird enough you got an orangutan friend, but now his face melts and his parents show up and he's
got back molar tusks.
Yeah, you have some weird siege happen, kind of like Friday the 13th part 3 in the barn, or like maybe even 5.
Anytime somebody describes a barn like that, I picture Friday the 13th
100%.
part 3.
Because that was the first thing that scared the shit out of me in a barn.
Open doors on the top.
Yeah, it also happened in part 5 with Roy.
Shitwood, gray.
We don't talk about that.
No.
With Roy.
Oh, yeah, no. Chris is right. We don't broach that.
We don't talk about that.
We had 3, and wasn't that good enough for you?
Yeah.
It was in 3 fucking D, sir.
Yeah.
3 dimensions.
I celebrate part 5.
Yeah, you do.
And
you celebrate all of them.
I do, including.
I know.
Including.
Dragged to the city.
Space City, USA.
He gets dragged to the city. He does. Jason unceremoniously dragged to a city via a boat, via a river boat.
I know.
Yeah, man. So this story took a really fucking odd turn. Like, holy shit. I mean, obviously we have a lot of speculation to go over, but just obviously the part that's jumping out to me here is this weird face melting thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's really. I mean, granted, this entire scenario and this entire encounter is completely out of the ordinary.
Sure.
But you start throwing that in there and you're like, wait a minute. Like, what sort of shitfuckery is this?
Well, because it starts it starts breaking away from traditional Bigfoot lore.
100%. Yeah, well, I mean,
it's fairly normal-ish, and then it goes into fucking. He goes dark Brandon. He gets the fucking glowing eyes.
He goes dark
face
Brandon.
melting, which maybe that's a weird stress thing, and he just saw his vision got weird.
Yeah,
who knows?
I don't know.
I totally think Tim's laughter might have been a stress reaction. I don't think seeing glowing eyes, especially considering the context of his dad having seen it, though he doesn't know about that.
Not the red eyes, just the melty face thing.
Oh, yeah, maybe. But it definitely it gets high strangeness in spades.
No, 100%.
But even with him just hanging out with Mikey, right, everything goes to shit when he decides to pound his chest.
Which is just a silly, Tarzan,
but I mean,
Gilligan
it's
thing.
the
as he
same
said.
idea as like grabbing a dog's muzzle, probably, and just going, like doing that to a dog. Like, I'm assuming a primate's going to take that as like a challenge.
Clearly.
Like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, but I don't know. I guess that's just one of the only things that you know that they do, so you do it to be sure. Make some sort of weird connection, I guess.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And at this point, it's just, it like Chris was saying, like obviously I agreed when I wrote, it's like a Spielberg flick from the 80s. It's completely like you meet this foreign creature and you have to get to know each other, but instead of tempting them with Reese's Pieces, you are tempting them with toys and, imitation games. And I don't blame Randy for not thinking about a primate challenge. But what's weird to me is that, biologically speaking, eyes turning red does not happen.
No.
Can't happen. And this layered on with the other things, like you say, the melting face, the weird submolar tusks that come out, and even more intriguingly, the constant use of quadrupedal locomotion. And I know that's not the first time I've ever heard of it in context of Bigfoot.
Don't forget,
but it's not common.
Don't forget the humming.
No.
The paralyzing
the paralytic
hum.
humming. This thing is definitely a hypercryptid by our definition.
Oh, 100%. I'm like, whatever this thing is, this is like, this has powers.
Yeah.
Then his whole family shows up. Mom shows up, then Dad shows up. Dad knocks the fence down, kicks it halfway across the county.
Everybody's family shows up except the mom.
Terrifying.
Except Randy's mom's in the house, but everyone's parents show up. There's a fucking rumble in the barn.
Yeah, dude.
All different.
He's got the butt of the gun. He's just smashing the thing's arm. Like, yeah, man. God damn. All right.
And Mikey is clearly obsessed with humanity.
Oh yeah, no. He from the minute that Randy and his buddy left to go get his dad, Mikey was following him.
Like hopping out of the cornfield. Could you imagine?
Yeah. It's so creepy.
Like an orangutan-esque primate
it's just creepy.
Hopping up and down, and you're saying, waving like, hey,
what's going
dude, it's safe. He's a pet. They can't cross water. They've never been.
It's like
primate has never hurt a human,
Jeepers
ever.
Creepers and Wizard of Oz. Like, hey, what's going on?
No, it's a dark combo.
Super weird, man.
So there's a lot going on. It gets fucking weirder.
Yeah.
And so I'm not gonna telegraph any of that because
all right, well,
come back for the next part. But
no, for sure.
But I will say there's a lot of things going on, and one of the things that is just my personal theory that we were hinting at, and the reason I went into such a huge digression into that environmental disaster that happened in Michigan.
Oh yeah,
is because if such profoundly negative effects are going to happen to the livestock, cows aborting sheep, fucking mayhem, and human beings. Human beings are having stillbirths and crazy shit and seizures. Whatever these things are, maybe they're mutants. Maybe they're mutant Bigfoot, or maybe it's something else, but they might have been affected negatively. Here's the other thing, too. They've been planted there since 73, 74. This farmer's just been hucking shit into that field. I don't know how he got away with it. Even if he owned the property, I don't know how he got away with it. But he's been doing it. So think of this. If his parents had been the ones feeding on it before Mikey was even conceived.
Oh, and then they had the weird little superpower Bigfoot baby. The mutant baby, or their brains are turned into Swiss cheese.
There it is.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was thinking.
Because that's the thing, because we all know mutants don't work like they do in Marvel Comics.
I wish, but unfortunately,
what should give you Spidey sense in a perfect world gives you leukemia.
Like all of the radiation that I've been exposed to. Like I'm just going to eventually lose a nut.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to get a power in there.
God forbid, but
I'm not going to have like a...
Yeah, your ball is not going to go out and fight crime.
I mean, a pair of wings aren't going to fly out of there.
And that would be weird.
Guys, I fly weird.
Yeah, my balls are trying to fly out of my pants nonstop.
Dude, I want Dadge Goyle to pick me. Dude, you pick me up in your truck, or you're going to Dadge Goyle me to the studio.
Dude, I could just see Dad just like floppy pants as his ball's trying to get out. It's like, dude, I can't get used to looking at this.
No, guys, don't understand. This is my one good ball with 2 wings. It's amazing.
One good ball, 2 wings. Don't worry about it.
There you go. I'm flying like this, and it's just taking me away. So, but I was thinking that too. Is that like, maybe it's affecting them mentally, like maybe the entire them having powers, being the interdimensional shamans that I want them to be so bad, but then feeding on this tainted meat from these animals is like fucking their brains up.
Even if they
that's why they're coming, like he's coming towards people.
Interdimensional shamans, you're exactly right. It could have psychologically affected them in a way that maybe their fine motor skills aren't there, so that's why they're quadrupedal a lot of times.
Yeah, that's true.
Other factors might be, so even if it's still mystical and magical,
right?
The practical effects of environmental contamination
could still be fucking them up.
Or aliens. We can't rule anything out.
No, we can't rule out aliens either. We've definitely had
this is a hell or space situation.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. 100%. Hell or Space 2024. Get your t-shirts now at hellorspace.com.
There it is. Plug. Shameless.
It is. Speaking of plugs, Robert, we got some Patreon shout-outs to do.
Fuck yes, we do.
For the good folks to support us over there at patreon.com/Cryptonaut Podcast.
Just wonderful people, one and all. Dominic Scheel.
Thank you, Dominic.
Omen Anderson.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
How's that sound? Homespun and fucking diabolical all at once.
Because Omen.
This is my son, Omen.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, your kid rules, dude.
Isaac Golden.
Thank you, Isaac.
All caps.
Nice.
So
Distracted Vixen. I know her from Discord.
Yeah, from Discord. Yeah, she's there.
Hello, Distracted. Joseph Medina
Hell yeah.
is rounding it up.
Nice.
Last but not least,
I think we nailed
slow
those.
but steady stream. I don't think I fucked up any of them.
No, not at all. Actually,
thank you, everyone, and thank you everyone that's already supporting us. Honestly, can't do it without you.
No, we appreciate it there. And again, as we mentioned at the top of the show, with the Patreon coming up in November of 2024, if you sign up for your Patreon membership on the iOS app, you will be charged extra, so do not do that. This in no way does this change in November affect current members.
Yes.
Currently out there, if you already signed up to Patreon,
you're good.
You're fine. Nothing's gonna happen.
Yep.
2024, you download the app, you're like, Mark told me not to do this, I'm gonna do it. Fuck him. You're gonna get hit with a 30% charge. Nothing we can do about it.
It's like $3. We don't want you to have to spend it.
Patreon has something to do with it. Apple does. So in November 2024, if you're going to sign up, after that, go to patreon.com/Cryptonaut Podcast, create your account, do your shit, then download the app, then sign in, and then you're fine. We're going to keep talking to you guys about this
surcharges.
It's a whole thing. And Patreon, actually, I want to give kudos to Patreon. They've been super cool about reaching out to people and trying to help. Because our situation sucks that we have to tell our listeners this, but there's other creators out there that are way fucking harder screwed than we are with this.
Oh, surely.
So all we gotta do is tell you, like, hey, fuck that app. Don't sign up through it. Listen to the app, but don't, listen to the shit, but don't sign up through it after this certain time. But other people out there, and I will give them credit, they are Patreon's doing an excellent job of communicating with people, being very transparent about this, and really trying to help people out. Like, I'm really, I watched the whole video. There's a whole vlog and a blog and all kinds of shit, and it's actually really cool. So I'm happy that they're helping out.
Proactive.
Because this is how people make a living. This is how you guys live. So it's Apple starts fucking with your revenue stream. It's like, guys, come on, the fuck, man. As I'm, as I have a laptop and a
Speaking
phone
of which, I'm only going to hint at this.
I'm part of the problem.
I'm obviously not going to deliver the goods, but we're thinking about maybe through your generosity making a studio upgrade. Small but significant, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Oh yeah, there might.
Chris and Mark told me about it as I came in, and I'm like,
there might be a thing happening.
Oh fuck yes!
Soon. Actually, I would say go ahead, pull the trigger, and go ahead and do it. And then we can announce it at some point. So yeah, we're going to do that. And tomorrow, Tuesday, August 20th, Christopher's film Squirrels premiering on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, type in Cryptonaut Podcast. It's there. Wherever you're listening to this, there's plenty of links to our YouTube channel. And of course, along with that movie dropping, there is going to be this sweet piece of merch that the people on the $10 tier get to see. And there will be more merch, another shirt released as well. And this coming Friday, we'll be doing a watch party on the Discord where Christopher is going to be there to do a Q&A. So if you're on the Patreon, sign up for the Discord. Check it out. I'm going to send out all those notifications to people so they all know. And we're going to hang out. We're going to watch Chris's movie. It's going to be super fun. And we're going to have a little Q&A afterwards, drink some beers, hang out, have fun. We're going to do that. It's going to be fucking awesome. The Cryptonaut Instas and Twitters and Facebooks and TikToks and all that is out there. We're doing it. My son has been slacking on the TikToks. So I was like, hey, buddy, New week, we need some clips.
Yeah.
So,
man.
Yeah, stop waking up at fucking 1 in the afternoon and get your ass to work, boy. I will give him this, though. He's been helping out a lot around the house with doing the dishes. And,
that's good.
And doing the laundry,
Them
taking care of his shit. He's been really good about that.
I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due.
He's been really good. He spent all of his earnings from creating our TikToks and bought himself a new Xbox 360 controller.
Wow.
Or, I'm sorry, an Xbox Series X controller for like $70. I'm like, bro, it's your money. Do what you got to do.
Do what you got to do. Earn it, spend it.
Follow us on TikTok. We got things happening there. And we got the merch. We will have 3 new pieces of merch up there at our hellerspace.com, which is our TeePublic shop. And of course, there's cryptonautmerch.com. You can get your embroidered hats there. If you're on YouTube, there's a little merch shelf at the very bottom. You can see all the stuff down there happening. All kinds of sales and whatnots, rocking my hats. I just had somebody actually ask me about the Heller Space hat that I'm wearing right now. They're like, oh, is that like what is that? And I was like, oh, it's podcast. So like, really? I was like, yeah, it's my podcast. And then the conversation goes like, cool.
Yeah.
You never know where it's going to go. So what are you talking about?
Do you ever are you ever tempted to like pretend it's like just something you're a fan of so they just probe?
No, I try to, I'm like, yeah, no, it's in me and my friends and I have the show.
Yeah.
And I try to like download, and like give them a card. Then, I never hear from them again. Or
I ran into somebody.
Or they're like, holy shit.
At the store. And I hadn't seen them since high school. It's been a long time. And they're like, hey, what have you been up to? And, my first reaction is like, you don't know. Of course you don't fucking know.
Yeah.
What?
Man.
Okay.
But I was just being a dick,
the
kind
sass.
of.
That's funny,
I was. But then we just talked shit, and it was fun. I hadn't seen him forever.
Hilarious.
I got to say, it was the guy that gave me my first Slayer tape. So,
no shit. Nice.
So I owe that man a forever gratitude. Debt of gratitude, not a get a gratitude.
Get a gratitude.
Gratitude.
Nice.
Nice.
But anyway, no, I'm really not that hubristic. I don't feel like anyone knows us at all.
No. Every time I drop cards off, I actually just found a new record store. I'm going to plug them real quick here. They've been around for 4 years. It's the Canandaigua Record Exchange.
Mm-hmm.
And it's awesome. It's this little record shop in Canandaigua. They've been around for like 40 years or so. I actually got a copy of Man of War Into Glory Ride used.
Wow.
On vinyl?
Yeah.
How much?
For a really decent price. Like I'll tell you off air, but it's actually really decent. And it's like the second pressing of it too. It was cheap.
Okay.
Yeah. It was actually it was under $50.
Okay.
Yeah, it was actually really good. The price, I'm like, oh shit, that's a good. He's got good prices. But I dropped some cards off. I'm like buying some records. I'm like, yeah, man. So can I leave some cards here for my friends and I kind of got a podcast.
Right.
People, and I feel all really people like us. And I don't know. He's like, yeah, no, you guys are local. For sure. I was like, oh, I'll give you a shout out on the show. So the Canandaigua Record Exchange.
Okay, nice.
Awesome, sweet little shop in Canandaigua, New York. Super cool. Check it out. Dude's
always
awesome.
Support the mom and
Has
pop.
great fucking stock of records too.
That's awesome.
New and used. In his prices, like I said, I got that record for under $50, so it was definitely worth it.
Hard to beat.
So
dang.
So there it is. Thank you all so very much. Come back next week for part 3.
Oh boy.
Robert, give us the episode count. Where you at? 7?
Oh no. No. I'm thinking I shouldn't say it. I shouldn't say it because I'm going to be proven wrong.
Say it.
I don't think any more than 4. I do think
I
might sneaky Pete and get away with 3.
No.
It's a possibility.
You're going to sneaky Pete us?
I'm not going to try to sneaky Pete you. I'll never undersell a story. Everyone knows that. Yeah. I do all the I do the hard research.
I mean, you can only do 3.
Well, you know the boundaries of the numbers of the page count.
Yes.
So
exactly. And I did expand it a smidge today.
No, you know what? You did good today because
we did great.
You had 6 pages, and then you had a 7th that was like a little that wasn't.
I mean, it was only
super
5.5 for me.
Yeah, no, for my I got.
I like Chris's page count.
I got 6 and some
I'm
change.
always under.
Yeah,
I don't even want to know what yours is. It's gonna make us 10.
No, it wasn't that bad.
No,
it was like it was at 7.5.
Oh, see, I got 6 in 3/4.
Yeah,
that was 5.5.
Chris gets 5.5. I'm just gonna go with Chris's page count from now on. So I'll always be under.
You better make sure you contact him.
Because the thing is, the story's got to tell itself. You got to end it on the right notes.
Yeah,
there's much more to come, but also it's sort of like this. It happens in a sort of condensed framework.
Right.
So a lot of what happened, like the first parts of this, happened spread out just a smidge. And then I had to give a little background on what was going on environmentally.
For sure. No, for sure.
I mean, that
definitely.
makes sense.
No, I mean, that's extremely important to the story. But, once you get to this part, the end of this, you're like, oh
yeah,
maybe
it's
a thing,
dude.
Yeah. Randy had a hell of a day. I mean, starting when you just, I mean, the mud pile in your buddy's yard and then chasing a dog ass into a tube and then not doing anything about it.
Possibly cat, too.
Or cat.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
Cat, man, dog.
So all of that is fine. But then one day of like, building your dam, releasing a raccoon, chasing a big dog, neighbors going, don't chase big dogs, taking you to the friend's house that you're not even supposed to be there, but what the hell, the parents are gone, meeting a fucking corn orangutan, getting followed home, and then deciding, all right, I'm still want to play in my yard. I want to have fun. I know I saw this thing. I know it's out there, but the moxie of a 10-year-old. And then that shit happens and the night is not over by a shot.
No,
it
turns into Barnes heap.
Yeah. It just gets super weird, man.
Yeah. So next week,
part
even
3.
more fun.
All right, man. Come back, check it out. Mikey's Story Part 3. We'll be doing it next week. Thank you all so very much, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Fuck yeah.
Goodbye.
Mm-hmm. And how?
Goodbye.